right. Well, hello, and welcome everyone to our BG5 Live. Today is April 28th, 2020. This is episode number 50, and today we're going to be taking a look at trait 24. So we're going to be taking a look at inspiration must be given a rational form. So that's what we're going to be taking a look at today. Now, of course, before we jump in and get started, let's say hello to our panel. And first of all, I want to welcome back Lavina. Hello, Lavina. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's so great to have you back.
Thank you so much. Great to be back.
Yay. And let's go to Chris. Hey, Chris.
Hey everybody, welcome back, Lavina. Super glad you're with us too. So yeah, this will be really fun today.
Woohoo. And Natalie.
Yeah, super fun to have the team complete again, and really happy to be here today. Looking forward to what we're going to discuss.
Yay. All right. So without any further ado, again, welcome to all of you who are here in our Zoom room. Welcome everyone who is watching us via Facebook Live, and welcome to everyone who's listening via the recording, wherever you're finding the recording, including YouTube. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe as well. All right. So we have been going through this process of kind of taking a look at what's happening in the world with all of this craziness going on. And I was listening, I was actually over at my mom's yesterday, and I was listening to the news, and they were talking about the stages of grief, you know, kind of in this whole pandemic and life changing and all of this stuff going on, just kind of walking through those stages. And it was very fascinating to me, because as I was looking at where we've been and what we've been looking at and where we are right now, taking a look at the 24, it kind of mapped on to these 7 stages of change, or these 7 stages of grief. So this is the modified Kubler-Ross model of grief mixed with the Lewis and Parker's 7 stages of transitional change. So I just kind of mixed them all together. But I wanted to go through them because it kind of really maps on to, in a sense, what we've been going through over this past, month or so. So we've been talking about this sort of the original crisis. So when we were in 36, the 36 of crisis, this is where we had the shock about the COVID-19 and the shutdown. That's when it all started. So the shock is the initial paralysis at hearing the bad news. It's like, whoa, kind of like, wow, everything's shutting down. And really shocking that the entire, it's not just one country, it's the entire world shutting down. Then we moved into, in a sense, innocence and opinions. So we have the 25 of innocence, we have the 17 of opinions. So this is trying to avoid the inevitable. This is denial. So you can see sort of this innocence, like, oh, it's not really happening, it's not really that bad. And then all of the opinions that came out of what you can do to stay safe, and, oh, this will be over, in 15 days. This is not going to be a big deal, right? So in a sort of a state of denial, if you will. Then anger. So this is where we have control and shock. So we have control in the 21, we have shock in the 51. This is the frustrated outpouring of bottled up emotion. This is when it's like, oh my God, this is really for real? Not only that, but finding out some things that are kind of happening behind the scenes as well, which could cause a lot of shock and anger as well. Also, just not liking to be controlled, right? To have to stay at home. So there can be anger in that you no longer, you may have been let go of your job. You may not, it may have been postponed. All of these things, you can't go outside. You can't do this. You can't do that. Whatever that is, so this built up anger. And then we moved into sort of this bargaining. And remember, we were talking about the growth being the end of a cycle And then the ordering, so that's the 42, and then the ordering, the 3, trouble at the beginning, right? So there's a limitation here, and we're kind of, sort of seeking in vain for a way out. So people are kind of pushing the limits or trying to bargain. Then what we took a look at last week, we took a look at nourishment in the 27. We took a look at taking care of yourself first. And this is sort of the final realization of the inevitable. This is sort of the depression phase. So I don't know, I know I was kind of giggling to myself because in the last week, that's kind of how I've been feeling, just kind of like sort of helpless, kind of like, okay, just take care of myself, a little bit frustrated, but kind of just depressed, right? Nothing's moving forward. You can't really do anything. There's no real clarity yet. So moving into depression. Now, where we're moving today is in seeking solutions. I actually moved into it yesterday. This is rationalization. So this is testing. This is seeking realistic solutions. And so in the news, that's one of the things you're starting to see is, what are some realistic solutions of how we can open up the country, how we can continue to, how we can open up the world, how we can stay safe, etc. And what's interesting is that we're at this, sort of shifting point where things are beginning to open up, and we're moving from fulfilling your purpose through mind to fulfilling your purpose through form. So in a sense, there's sort of a different theme that we're moving into. And so this ultimately is acceptance. This is also what we're moving into is the 2, which is the driver, getting back to work and finally finding a meaningful way forward. And the 2 is all about direction. So that's where we're going to be going next week. But for right now, it's about seeking solutions. So it really is, in a sense, sort of rationalizing, testing, what are some realistic solutions that we can use in order to slowly begin to open up the economy, slowly begin to get back to work? How do we make sure that, the virus doesn't resurface? So I wanted to pause here for a moment. I actually would love to start with Lavina, because I think you've been, very connected with this, with the whole COVID shutdown and your experience, and you've probably went through all of this as well. So I would love to hear from you, Lavina. And again, so welcome back. We missed you so much.
Thank you so much. I miss being here with you guys and being able to live. It's like your whole world gets put on pause when all you're doing is trying to breathe and taking it one breath at a time, when your body is in a complete, almost, it felt like shutdown at some stages, where you're not able to do the things that normal, everyday living kind of thing, like walk to the bathroom, I mean, it's that terrifying that you can't take care of yourself. And so I think when I got into the control shock, a lot of this is brilliant, Karen. A lot of this, I remember going through all of these different processes and trying in the last 5 weeks, trying to get to this place of recovery. And finally, it happened in the last few days where I can at least talk without being overcome by the coughing. The pain is still there. In fact, I'll show you, I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see this, but it's the latest fashion in COVID-19. I know that there's a delay because I'm on satellite internet, but it's basically a vest that has pulsed electromagnetic frequencies. It's got light and heat, and it's the only thing that has been able to get me from feeling that intense pain, that pain of the sharp, like knives in the lungs. And it's no joke. When I found out how I got this from my daughter, who's the new school that she went to, they had a group of kids that went to China and came back in January. And I was just shocked. Like, how on earth did nobody tell me that before I signed up for this, school with my daughter? She went to school for 3 days. She came home, they closed the school, and then 5 days later she was sick, really the sickest I've ever seen her. And then my husband got it, had to take him to the hospital, and then I've gotten it really bad because my immune system isn't the same as his. He's a lot stronger than me. But just, when you're personally affected, you take things a lot more seriously. When it's out there in the world and you don't see it and you're not affected, it can feel like everybody's being very dramatic about it. But I can tell you, I've never been this sick in my entire life. Wow. And it was just really scary. And I'm grateful that I'm on the other side of it. And I'm grateful that so many people don't have to have these types of symptoms. But, you know, whatever it takes to be able to pull through together and to learn from this, I really want to support. And so I don't have a lot of feedback for the 7 stages of change grief and the mapping on that you did for the body graph, the traits, but I'm really, really fascinated how easily and quickly they just line up like that. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Lavina. And again, we were saying our prayers, and I'm really glad that that you're here and you're joining us and you're getting better, and that makes me very happy. So it also gives me a sense that yes, we are on the other side of it, you know. And like you said, it's a whole different experience when you're in it and actually experiencing it. Yeah. Anything for you, Chris or Natalie?
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking about a conversation that I had with a client, I think it was a week ago or something, and she was saying that she had a session with a human design analyst, not a BG5 consultant, someone else, who had said something to the effect of that human design wasn't really a tool for deep psychological transformation. And I was like, I don't know, I kind of disagree with you on that. And now I really do. Because it really, like, there's the potential. This isn't just about a little sort of like, here's some interesting things about, like, we are energy. And so what we're talking about is the movement of energy. And I just think this is brilliant. And I love also that it's sort of, this is how it works, right? Divine inspiration. You go to your mom's, you just happen to watch a show and you're like, huh, wait a minute. And then you bring it into form, you know? And same thing, I kept having the pull to read this book, this certain book, and or this author, a certain author. And I was like, why do I just keep having this pull to like go into the library where these books are and like go in there and grab this book. And I found a new one, and I was like, I don't know why I'm reading this. I thought it was just for entertainment, and whoosh, this whole download came. And it's like, when we're listening to ourselves and we're operating correctly, this is where it comes from, and then we can bring it in. But it's just another beautiful example of how, you know, we are complex, and human design and career design, BG5, is complex, and yet it's so beautifully simple at the same time. So I think I love this.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Together. Yeah.
Yeah.
And welcome back, Lavina. I'm just so happy you're with us. It just feels like the 4 Musketeers are back. So I'm really happy. You're feeling better, and I love your vest. I think we all.
Thank you.
Maybe we could put some beads on it or something. You know? Anyway.
Just make it unique.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And Natalie.
Yeah, well, I am fascinated with you having this inspiration again, just mapping it on. And the thing I get from this and from the whole system, as Chris was referring to as well, you know, that it always bounces back, right? You have maybe sometimes that you're in the shadow side or whatever, but there's a process, and you surface back up to acceptance, and then being able to be yourself, or to follow your decision-making strategy. And that's also the times we're in. And then it's so interesting that you can map it on, like really going through this shock. And now, you know, you see in the world as well, not only in America, they're opening up in stages, but in more countries, also here in Europe. And the Netherlands is, you know, taking it real easy, but well, I hope we open up soon enough as well. So, you know, we're also seeking solutions. That's, you know, what, looking at different aspects of society, huh? Not just ICU beds, for instance, or so also looking at how can we make it, you know, in phases back to hopefully the old normal, or at least, you know, being able to touch each other, because I'm really, that's the most difficult part, to have the distance between people. But yeah, so and for a part also acceptance. There will be a new way of working together, of yeah, being in the. So again, we've talked about this a lot, but it is fascinating how yeah, in these shifting times, who could have thought of something like this, right? And now we're learning to do it in a new way, right? We're starting the process.
Yeah.
I think, and also getting back to yourself and trusting yourself. And so, what is you know, what is correct for me, and how do I feel about the decisions that are made for me, right? Because that's essentially also, you now get people discussing what they hear and see,
Yeah.
instead of just going, okay, you know, this is the way we do it. And now people go like, is this the way we do it? What do I want? and that's, you know, that's the individuality, getting back to yourself and aligning. Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And the thing here, and the thing here also is that change is not easy, you know, and just what Natalie was saying, you know, in kind of, this has been a wake-up call really for the entire planet.
Yeah.
And sometimes the only time that we wake up is when there's some kind of crisis, when all of a sudden we realize that something's not working correctly. And you know, there is a whole process. Again, this is also the stages of change as well, which I thought was very interesting. And I think as we move towards 2027, you know, we are in this whole process of change. And I love what Natalie said too, is that yes, you know, there can be a shock and things can be, you know, horrible for a time being, but there's always a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, there's always a place that we can then resolve, and we can learn, and we can move forward from that place.
Yeah, and if I may, I also love that you're here, Lavina, and I love your new outfit. And especially talking about seeking solutions, right? I'm, you know, you hear a lot about the vaccines, and since we're talking about COVID-19, but are there other solutions, right? And just the heat and light, for instance, I heard Trump talking about it, and he was attacked again, but it's, you know, are there other solutions? You know, is there, what? Yeah, so I'm happy that we're also, taking a look at that, for preventing other people of having this, and as we could hear from Lavina, it's really, really awful to go through.
Yeah.
Awful.
Oh my God! And if I could I share one of the solutions that I did learn from trial and error?
Yes, please.
So one of the reasons why people are dying is because it's developing into pneumonia. And I didn't know this, but a lot of your back, your lung tissue is actually at the back of your body. So when you get this disease, you get very, very fatigued, and all you want to do is lay down. And, you know, me being a non-energy type anyway, did a lot of laying down, a lot of sleeping. And I trained myself to sleep on my back so I wouldn't get pillow creases on the side of my face. Yeah, I don't want to have wrinkles. My God, heaven forbid, right? So, sorry. No, I'm serious. I trained myself to sleep on my back so I wouldn't sleep on my side. So I'm sleeping on my back, and then I developed this pneumonia, and everything gets really, really worse. And I finally found a video of a doctor in the UK that says you need to make sure that you lay on your stomach. And I'm never a stomach sleeper because, you know, the neck, it's not really comfortable. And so one of the most important things, there's this controlled breathing and a specific kind of coughing that you can do to help move some of the stuff out of your lungs, which is almost impossible. I've never had a sickness where everything was so solid and thick that nothing came out for weeks on end. And one of the things that did finally help was laying on the stomach and using, again, the mat. I got a mat and a vest so I could wear the vest sitting up too. But being able to breathe, and if you Google it on YouTube, you'll be able to find this UK doctor and the breathing technique. I think it was Harry Potter's author. What is her name?
J.K. Rowling's.
Yeah, Rowling's shared it on Twitter, and that's how I found it.
Wow.
So that's something really, really helpful. So the reason why people are dying is because this kind of pneumonia gets so bad so quickly. The doctors are watching people, tweeting or playing with their phones, and they're looking at the lung tissue and saying, this is a serious advanced case of pneumonia. Normally I would be intubating you at this point, but you look like you're fine. And the reason is because people are still able to exhale the carbon dioxide, but they're not getting enough oxygen in the blood. So they're told not to go to the hospital unless they can't breathe. And by the time they can't breathe, it's almost too late. So that's why it's been so dramatic with the amount of people dying, because at first they were intubating them, and then they realized that's really not helping as much. So now they're giving them oxygen to get the oxygen in the body and helping them breathe as long as possible before intubation being a last resort.
Wow.
So my lesson was, and I learned the hard way, don't lay only on your back.
Yeah.
So that's a beautiful solution for getting through, at least.
Yeah, exactly. And again, this is part of what we're looking at today, is this sort of rationalization, this return of kind of looking at things over and over and over again until you can find that solution. So again, it's inspiration must be given a rational form. And it's the natural and spontaneous process of transformation and renewal. And it's the rationalizing is a risk and a test of the spirit. Now, part of the reason that is because you're going over and over and over. You're trying different things. It's, you're testing, you're seeing what works. And oftentimes you mostly find those things that don't work. Right. But learning, just like Lavina was saying, learning through this sort of trial and error. There's no proof or experience, only knowing at this point. And this is the ability to take a unique inspiration and convert it into a rational concept that can eventually be communicated with others. This is also, again, the return or the returning. So it's returning to the same idea or thought over and over and over and over again, reviewing it until it can be understood. Right, reviewing it until there's the possibility of maybe being able to find a solution after going through it several times. So this is the trait that we're in right now: this rationalization, this return, this being able to provide kind of the solution. Again, there's no proof or evidence, though. There's only knowing, kind of knowing what potentially can work and what can potentially not work by kind of going over and over it. So it's different than the logical side, because this is very individual. So this is very mutative, right? So this is about bringing forth something new. So, and yes, Natalie.
No, I wasn't.
I just
saying. I'm reading it again and taking it in. Let the others go first.
How about for you, Chris or Lavina? Any thoughts? And I know you've been writing a lot about this, Chris. I would love to hear some of your download thoughts or what's been present for you in this rationalization.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and maybe you're going to show this, I don't know, but yesterday we had, and I don't know if it still is, I haven't looked at today's chart, but we have the 24 to the 61, and then at the bottom of the chart was the 60 to the 3. Both of them are in individual inspiration, sort of, works in a pulse. That's why it's like you don't have any proof or experience. It's just like it drops in, like a knowing, and you go, whoa. And we're in this pressure sandwich right now, or at least yesterday we were. And so there's this pressure to figure things out and a pressure to mutate at the same time. And so it's like what I noticed, because I do not have the 24, nor do I have the 61, which is across from the 24, is that having it activated, I'm watching and going, whoa, look at what's coming in, almost like really, really fast. And then being able to put that and take that in and use my design to filter through and write from that place. And so some of you may also be feeling like this. A lot of my clients yesterday were just like, oh, I cannot figure this out. And I was like, relax, like go bake a cake. Like, don't worry about it. You know, just, it'll come in. You can, but if you try to figure it out, it's like contemplation is a softening a little bit. Yes, we're focused, but it's a softening at the same time. There's a paradoxical experience in this. When we're really working with something that wants to come in, you can't hold on to it too tight, but you also got to give yourself some space for it to come in. And I think that's a really big piece of it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And Lavina, is there anything that you would like to add as well?
Well, for me, I have trait 24 envy. Always have thought that was me because I have the other side, the 61. And it's interesting, so interesting that it's talking about testing the spirit, you know, and going into the knowing in order to understand, or we could say recognize why, you know. And I think that that's one of the things that a lot of us are going to be looking for this week, because we have the whole strength, right? So there's this, our truth transformation is on the other side right now. So everyone is trying to find, where do we find the spirit or find the knowing in all of this difficulty, all of the struggle and the pain and the heartache and the suffering. And there's other aspects in our transit right now that are speaking to deep depression, you know, where there's a lot of limitation and there's a lot of learning that is coming out of that. So with this trait, my mind, when I was sick, went into all of these different, you know, what if, hypotheses, why, you know, rationalizing, why did I get this? Why this now? You know, all of this stuff. I felt like I got hit by a freight train and my whole life came to a crashing halt because there was no way around it. You have to be with your body. You can't move and move forward with this kind of illness. And so there was all kinds of rationalization to make myself feel better about why I had this. And the best rationalization for me was, because I'm a contagion as my life work, is at least I got to experience it, found out the hard way, and let other people know, because that's my purpose, right? I'm a contagion. I need to let people know that this is what I've went through and this is what might change your experience of it. I hit the brick wall for you guys. So, you know, that's my rationalization anyway this week.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good point, because it's really about sort of making sense of all of this, you know, and what is your own unique inner knowing, what is true for you and what is not true for you, right? We're taking a look at, remember what's right before this is depression as well. And if we take a look at the individual process, it can be very melancholic. It can be very depressive. It can be like, oh, and it's in that that melancholy that creativity can arise as well. The creativity to really rationalize, you know, possible solutions, right? The creativity to bring something new forward that arises by, you know, when you're in that sort of state of depression, of, you know, sadness, of this melancholy, you know, spend time with your creative muse to really get in touch with sort of rationalizing, why did this happen? You know, just like what Lavina was saying, why did this happen to the world and to the planet? Why did this happen to me? Why are things turning out the way they're turning out? So that you can really kind of get a sense of, you know what? If I keep going over this, this doesn't work. this doesn't work for me anymore. This doesn't work for the planet anymore. This doesn't work for where I work anymore, whatever it happens to be. So that rationalizing, that being able to see, kind of going over how did things play out? And then kind of this knowing of really what is true for you. And again, with it comes also a mutative change as well.
Thanks for taking a hit for the team, Lavina. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah.
And you know what's so funny, Chris? Your humor about it. I mean, being able to see the lighter side of it, that's definitely something that helped a lot too. Us people who are the emotional intelligence defined usually will take things very seriously and get all caught up in the head and the drama and the like, oh, and especially as a 3, woe is me, why now, that kind of like, you know, the suffering. But taking a hit for the team, it brings us to the lighter side of life. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you again.
And I noticed that we have some comments in the chat area as well.
Yeah, so we have Renee and saying, I have the 24 sons of core actions, so happy birthday this week. And for me, it is revisiting and seeing what continues to work and what needs to be adjusted or changed. So I do not experience it as a mind loop that just keeps replaying. It's more about where does new experiences or knowledge fit in with the previous concept, thought, idea, or solution. So I like that very much in the way, I'm not sure if it's a he or she.
Yeah, beautifully said, Renee.
Sorry?
Oh, I just said beautifully said, Renee.
Yeah, and then continuing on, the 24 helps me to keep current and not hold on to old beliefs or ideas. It constantly keeps you updated because it does revisit and update on a regular basis. So maybe the first time you don't know, and then as it keeps coming around, you see how it morphs and changes as time and information and experience in the world come into the collective. That's also true. The individual energy brings the mutation into the collective. So we're right on the verge of that. That's what is happening anyway. There will be a mutation in whatever way it will take, and it is coming into the collective now. How do we handle it?
Yeah.
So yeah. And actually, you talking about melancholy just now, and I have the 61 as well, like Lavina. So, and I felt today like really nothing was happening. Nothing was happening, and nothing was happening. I felt like, ugh. Although I had, you know, yesterday I stood up and I was like, okay, let's go. I have this, and this on my plate, and today I did some stuff, but I had to, you know, I put myself in my mind. You have to do this today. I just couldn't, and it took very long before it was 10 p.m. for me, you know. Took ages. This evening took ages for me to be here. So sometimes then there is just nothing happening, you know, and you're just like, oh.
And it's just, and it's just allowing that nothing to happen.
Yes, I did. I totally did. And just relaxed into it and was like, okay, so it's not today, maybe tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then boom, some creativity at one point will come and a lot of work gets done. So, or a lot of, you know where to go, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, and as Chris was saying earlier, this sort of pressure sandwich, that's one of the things that we have to be really aware of, is that pressure is there, but it's not necessarily, unless it's correct, there to be released. Sometimes it's just there and just being with the pressure of not knowing, being with the pressure of nothing's happening, just being with the pressure of it without having to act or do anything to counteract it. Just allow it to be there and watch the process.
Yeah. I actually think I went through the whole process of grief again today, from anger and everything, because nothing's happening. I'm like, world, wake up, or whatever, do something, come up with, brilliant ideas. And where are all the, new thinkers? And you know,
Well,
and
we're still percolating, and I know for
yeah,
myself, I've watching, thinking about doing some different things in my business. And in the past, before I would listen to my sacral, I'd be like, "Ooh, there's the idea, run," and I would just go, and I wouldn't sit with the pressure of it. And what's really fascinating is now I'm sitting with the pressure of it and not acting, because I actually don't know what the next step is. And I'm not clear yet. And so, but in the past, I would just go, "Oh, I have the idea, I have the inspiration, I'm going to go," because I was anxious with the pressure, or I was anxious that if I didn't do something right away, as soon as I knew, even if I don't need to, I have the idea, I don't necessarily know the next step yet. And so I'm not going to create a next step. That's initiating. The next step will reveal itself to me. And that's the power of understanding our decision-making strategy. And how, what you were just saying, Karen, is that just because we're under that pressure sandwich to figure it out mentally, or to transform, or to do something physically, to mutate physically, does not mean that we're supposed to do it right now. It just means there's lots of good pressure building up there. There's lots of good, friction in there. It's like, let it climax, and then
it is
go.
heating up. Yeah.
Yeah, let it heat up. And that's perfectly fine. But most of us like, "Oh my God, oh, this is really uncomfortable, I got to figure it out." And it's like, that's again, that whole thing of the tighter you hold on to it, it's like, let it go just a little bit, let it go. And then it can drop in. It can't drop in when we're holding on too much.
Yep,
So,
exactly. There's no proof or
right.
experience. There's only knowing.
Yes.
That's the pressure.
Yep.
And I wanted to talk about what the trait is today too, which is the natural, which is about recognition. And so if we take a look at the elevation of this is the potential gift of conceptualizing spontaneously. And this is the proper and spontaneous adaptation to new forms. So again, we're starting to shift into fulfilling through form. So we're right, in a sense, on the bridge right now. And the challenge is the mental vanity that the gift of conceptualizing spontaneously or the mental vanity that the gift of conceptualizing spontaneously can produce. The vanity to see transformation as a personal achievement rather than a socially supported or natural phenomenon. Right. So again, one of the things that we're hearing is that we're all in it together. And again, if we take a look, and that's why I put this picture here, is because if there's just one hand here, you really don't see, right, the whole picture. You don't see the light bulb, right? It takes more than just one hand to see the entire light bulb. And so it's, the gift of conceptualizing spontaneously, and again, being able to adapt and create new forms, which is, what we have been talking about. So Chris or Natalie, I see Renee's also typed something else here as well.
Yeah, so Renee agrees with you, Chris,
Thanks,
that it
Renee.
provides, that it provides downloads, and you need to have time or space for that download, because when it comes, it doesn't wait for you to be free, to be with it. It just comes. So this time of sheltering has allowed me to have more downloads and be available for them when they come, because I am more in control of my own time right now. I've heard this so much. It was my sister's birthday this weekend, and she's a self-advisor with only one strength, and also very sensitive. And I've told her this before. She knows about her design, and that she takes in a lot, but she just didn't know how to manage it or recognize it even. And now she's working from home, and then she's really she's just so happy being at home anyway. But she was at the office one day and doing something with another colleague. The colleague came in, and she really felt this kind of unease in her body, not knowing what it was. And then the colleague left, and it was, it was a relaxed state again. And now she recognizes what the experience is of, being conditioned, of getting what is not you, but what pumps you up or whatever. So yeah, just taking on this, being able to be more with yourself in whatever way, right? So for you, as you have it in your life work, Renee, very beautiful. You get a lot of downloads. Other people maybe get in tune with themselves, in tuning into their self and decision making strategy, feeling their body, being able to feel their body as they're not around a lot of other people all the time.
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful, in that sense, awakening to yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm looking at this too, and I'm looking at the challenge, the mental vanity that the gift of conceptualizing spontaneously can produce, right? So this is the vanity, this is the ego that says, ooh, look at this brilliant idea that I just got. It's mine. And what's really fascinating is what I've been looking at and downloading is that it's only through dispersing the idea, it's only through understanding that it isn't yours, that it is coming from, it's like it's like your little, divine download little sieve that just brings it in. And, lots of other people, this isn't a new idea, right? I was even reading where other people were talking about it. And I'm like, oh, but the way it's coming in here, and it's not meant just, it's not about me, right? And that's the part where we start to go, ooh, this is my idea, it's mine. And our ego gets, I'm going to copyright it, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what if it's just meant to be dispersed and shared? And that it's like, but when it's ready. And I just think this is really interesting, that this is where the ego comes in. And Edgar was asking, he says, nothing above the communication and action is supposed to be actioned, right? Which means the communication and action is this in the throat area. And then we're looking at conceptualization and inspiration in these, where trait 24 is in conceptualization. And Natalie said to him, not as a decision making, that action comes from your body intelligence. That's right. And whatever we're thinking about right here, we have to drop it into the body, bring it into the body so that the body's intelligence could tell us what to do with it next. And that's where where I know for myself in the past would be like, ooh, this is mine, I'm going to go do something with it. But it hasn't come all the way into my body yet. My sacral, because I'm a classic builder with a sacral, waiting to respond. I got to drop it in to the sieve, to the sacral, and let my body start to show me what the next steps are as they are revealed to me. But does that make sense, you guys? So you're not like,
Yeah.
you tend to come up right here and like, oh yeah, I'm going to do this because I have the idea. And it's like, you got to drop it into the body so the body can show you the next steps.
Yeah, and the other thing about it is it's because it's up here, it's a protected strength. So it needs to be invited for you to share as well. It's not to take action right away. And it is your outer authority, what you have to share for, for the world and with the world. So whatever comes through, and also having the ability to phrase it or to explain your knowing, because it's something new or not known, right? Or so it can be like light years ahead, whatever comes through. So
yeah, exactly. And the thing about our mind too, and we just we had the inspiration and conceptualization workshop not too long ago, is that our mind is not for us to make decisions. Our mind, and that's what this speaks to too, with the the vanity to see transformation as a personal achievement, right? The mind is to be an outer authority for others. It's where, we're here to share our wisdom, to share our brilliance, but the timing has to be correct. and it has to be recognized and invited. If you're sharing your brilliant ideas and it hasn't been recognized and invited, you know, nobody really cares, and it can fall against deaf ears, and it can't create that mutation that's possible. So again, it is not to take action. It is, you know, in a sense, that knowing, and that knowing then is there to, in this case, there to empower others when the timing is correct.
Yeah, there's somebody in our Facebook group as well, Sami, who has the 24.1 in personality sun, and in another life aspect as well. So, and I feel as if I need to make absolutely sure something is correct before I take a step forward. A lot of trial and error in my life, and since 24.1, it's probably 1.3. So yeah, a lot of trial and error. I can see that. But yeah, so I just let it be. And somebody else said it's the song. Let it be. Let it be.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the elements that we're dealing with here also is the fear of ignorance. So if your anxiety is driving you to try and spontaneously come up with this knowing or this recognition of why things are happening and impress that upon others, and then make a decision because you're trying to prove that you are not ignorant, this is where we fall by the wayside and start to express the negative aspect of our type, so whatever it happens to be for your career type. But that's another thing that you might want to watch out for this week, because we will have this trait all week. It's only the second day of it. Fear of ignorance.
Yeah.
That's a great point. Thank you for bringing that up. That's exactly, yeah, that's where the challenge comes in, right?
Right. And if you have conceptualization undefined, you're trying to be certain, right? And you get very mentally defensive, you know, because you don't want to look like you don't know what you're talking about. So be careful of that as well.
Lots of fun stuff, lots of ways that your mind could just play with you. Right?
And Yemi was asking, can you elaborate about dropping into your body? You know, I have a split between my head and my sacral. How does that work? So so again, it is trusting your decision-making strategy. And if you do have what's split, we call that a collaborative assimilation. And so collaborating and working with others is also another way to, in a sense, get that sense of wholeness.
Yeah, exactly. You can collaborate directly with people or indirectly out in, you just being in a public place can tap in and bridge the split. You know, think of it like a circuit board that has that's disconnected. So you just want to have that hooked up, and that's a way to do that.
You know, I was just thinking as you were saying that, you know, with social distancing and being quarantined, that I think it can be challenging, especially for many of us who do have a collaborative assimilation, you know, and are really designed to connect with others, and it helps us also with our decision-making strategy as well. So that can really be a challenge at this time also.
It can, but what we've seen with our team is that even like this right now, we are in a digital aura. And so the way that I conceive of it, and I'd be curious, you know, maybe this is another episode we could talk about it, but is that, you know, if we come together with the intention to tap into the energies here together, it seems to really work. I think it can be the case where you can just show up in a group, you know, if you're in a group call, you're in a Facebook group or something like that. But I do think that it's possible to actually make those connections virtually as well.
Yeah.
We've seen it. So
positive.
Yeah.
We've experienced it.
Yeah, exactly.
And with clients have experienced it too. So yeah. So we're just going to find new and innovative ways to come together, and that's part of what's happening right now in this mutation, is that we're we're finding new and innovative ways to really intentionally connect with one another, because some of the, you know, ways that we normally are accustomed to, we can't do right now.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm looking at the time. I do want to just real
Yeah.
quickly, I was taking a look at who has a birthday. It took me a while to find, but I found Irma Thurman has, who's an actress, has this as her life work theme. And this is the life work theme of the 4 ways, or the way. So right when we're in that transition period of moving from the mind into form, right, this is that way of moving from mind into form. And so it says your very direction evolves consciousness and form together by seeking clarity or resolution through constantly revisiting mental concepts. What, where, and who is God? And I kind of find it fascinating. The Kill Bill's kind of a, you know, it's a little bit of a shocking flick, but it's kind of what her journey is through the Kill Bill, is this sort of questioning the direction, and her direction that evolves, and the consciousness that involves, you know, as she's going through this whole process. So I thought it really fit in with what her design was all about as well. Anything?
And interesting. It's interesting that she has most of the mystical way. You know, she's got the whole stream of sensitivity. Look at that brilliant, completely open identity and direction, therefore showing how she can make money and play any role from, you know, identity and direction. And then, yeah, so just one strength and one trait that creates the entire stream of the mystical way, in partnership with that life's work.
Yeah.
Cool.
Very cool. All right. So again, we invite you, especially if you're new to BG5, or just catching up and listening to us, if you want to find out what the daily, you know, what the daily theme is, you can go to our website. You can scroll down and find BG5 Live, and you can actually tap in, and you can see what's happening each day. So you can take a look at that. You can also watch past episodes in our free resource library. So we invite you to check us out there. Also, our new courses are coming up in May, actually starting next week.
Next week.
Yes. And Natalie has a few. You can attend the first class free. So I would really invite you, especially for the foundation course and the certification course that are going to be starting next week. If you're just curious, you want to find out what it's about, check it out. You can attend the first class free, really get a feel for what it's all about. And so I would love to have you all join us.
Yeah.
All right. So that wraps up another episode of our BG5 Live. I would love to just check in, just to wrap everything up, check in to see if there's any questions or comments, and then words of wisdom, what to take a look at, and what to be present to as we move through this week in the 24. So any additional comments or anything in our Zoom room or in Facebook?
And nothing's happening.
Nothing's happening.
Well, there's things happening, but they're not necessarily relevant to this discussion.
Got it.
So I will, I'll just say, you know, kind of reiterating what we talked about today, is that there's a lot of pressure here today, because we have, not only is trait 24, but we have the 61. So there's a lot of pressure. You may be noticing that. That doesn't mean you have to take action. Trust your decision-making strategy. Give yourself some space. Have some fun with this, and recognize that there is some melancholy that can go alongside this process of like, I don't know. Oh, there it is. Oh, that's fun, you know, and yet, you know, it doesn't mean, okay, I just got to immediately go do something with it. You know, trust your decision-making strategy. It will guide you what to do next with that information that you're downloading. So.
Yeah. Beautiful. Yeah. Thank you, Chris.
Mm.
How about for you, Natalie?
Yeah, just be with it. Let it be. I like the song. So if you feel like you want to make something happen, or nothing's happening in your mind, or just let it be. And usually if we surrender, then creativity starts and your mind goes off in ways that you wouldn't have thought of, right? Because it's not you who's guiding that. So just let it be and see what pops up.
Love it. Love it. And Lavina, yay. I'm so glad that you were able to join us and you're still here. You were able to join us for the whole session. So I'm really, really glad you're back. And what words of wisdom do you have to share with everyone?
Yeah, along the same vein, just to not take your mind seriously as far as what that internal voice is, whatever bone you are worrying over, like a dog chewing a bone and trying to get to the center or the heart of the matter. If you spontaneously go, hey, that's what I'm going to do, that's where you can get tripped up. So just watch the mind. My biggest recommendation to anybody that's new to this experiment is to say, my mind thinks this, or I hear inside of my head, and making that a practice, a continual practice. So if your mind is saying this, flip it and go back to, okay, what is my body telling me right now? And one of the things that I learned in this last 5 weeks when I was really, really sick, at some points I was so terrified. I thought I had to go to the hospital. I thought I was going to die. And the only thing that kept me sane was going into, okay, what is my body doing right now? Right now I can breathe. Right now I'm here. Right now I'm alive. Oh, there's a BG, the BGs, Staying Alive. There's a COVID-19 version on YouTube if you need something ridiculous to look at. But just to find the joy and the laughter and the precious things that you are grateful for, even if something is, even if something is horribly, hard. There's a lot of hardship or a lot of depression right now. Try to find the bright silver lining because it is there.
Beautiful words of wisdom to really take in. And I was just thinking of this as you were speaking, Lavina. My husband and I were watching something and we just started just cracking up and we were laughing so hard and we're like, wow, we haven't laughed this hard for a long time. And, laughter's a great medicine. And again, it is serious times. There are things that are going on that are very serious. Yet at the same time, how can, just like Lavina was saying, where is that lightness? Where can we laugh? And where can we, allow ourselves, again, just to be with the pressure? We don't have anything to prove, just allow things to be, allow things to unfold. Things are shifting rapidly. And again, you can see that in this way, we're changing from the way of the mind, if you will, moving in to creation through form. So it'll be interesting to see how things all play out as, again, the country, cities, states, countries start opening up again, and how the economy recovers and unfolds. Because, not only did we have the health scare, but we now have to deal with the economics of it all as well. So as Natalie said, just let it be. And we look forward to seeing you all next week. Thank you. It's been our pleasure, and be safe. Follow your decision-making strategy. And again, we'll see you all next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.